Wealth is not measured by what you keep, but by what you create. Money becomes meaningful only when guided by intention. Survival is the beginning of the financial journey, but service is its destination. Chapter 12. The purpose of money. Money is not the end. It's a tool to build freedom and options. One of the greatest misunderstandings about money is believing it is the final destination. Many people spend years chasing numbers, milestones, or external signals of success, only to discover that the pursuit itself left them drained and unfulfilled. Money, by its nature, is not a finish line. It is a tool, a resource meant to amplify your choices, expand your possibilities, and allow you to live with greater freedom. When we treat money as the end, we shrink our lives to a single objective. When we treat money as a tool, we open doors that lead to a richer, more intentional existence. Money's true purpose becomes clear when you shift the question from, "How much do I have?" to, "What can this create for my life?" This small mental shift changes everything. It turns money from a source of stress into a source of empowerment. It stops being something you chase and becomes something you direct. When money is understood as a tool, it becomes easier to make decisions that align with who you want to be, rather than decisions driven by fear, comparison, or pressure. Freedom is the most valuable thing money can buy. Not material freedom, but psychological freedom. It is the freedom to choose how you spend your days, who you work with, what you tolerate, and how you design your future. It is the freedom to walk away from environments that diminish you and toward opportunities that elevate you. Wealth, in its most meaningful form, is the ability to live life on your terms without being forced into choices that betray your values or limit your potential. Options are the second gift money provides. Options prevent you from feeling trapped. They give you space to breathe, to think clearly, and to make decisions based on what is right, not what is urgent. When people lack options, they are often pushed into cycles of survival, taking the job they don't want, staying in relationships they have outgrown, or accepting situations that drain their well-being. Financial choices rooted in scarcity feel heavy and restrictive. Choices rooted in options feel empowered and aligned. Understanding this transforms the way you relate to money. Instead of using it to prove something, you begin using it to design something. Instead of spending to impress, you spend to express your priorities. Instead of pursuing more for the sake of more, you pursue what creates stability, fulfillment, and inner peace. Money with purpose becomes a quiet force that supports your growth, not a loud presence that dictates your identity. Money is also a tool for time, perhaps the most precious resource you possess. When used wisely, it gives you back hours that would otherwise be consumed by stress, exhaustion, or obligation. It allows you to delegate tasks, pursue education, invest in your well-being, and shape a lifestyle that reflects your aspirations rather than your limitations. Time bought with intention becomes a foundation for creativity, clarity, and long-term progress. Seeing money as a tool also reduces fear. When money is viewed as an end, losing it feels catastrophic. When it is viewed as a tool, you recognize that tools can be replaced, upgraded, or rebuilt. You understand that your true wealth lies in your mindset, your skills, your habits, and your ability to create value. This perspective gives you resilience. It frees you from the emotional pressure of perfection and allows you to engage with money from a place of calm strategy rather than anxiety or scarcity. Ultimately, the real purpose of money is not accumulation, it is alignment. It aligns your external life with your internal values. It aligns your actions with your long-term vision. It aligns your daily choices with the person you aspire to become. When money is seen through this lens, it stops being an obstacle and becomes a bridge. It connects where you are to where you want to go. Money is not the end. Money is the instrument. Freedom is the destination. Options are the real wealth. When you embrace this truth, you liberate yourself from the pressure of proving anything. You step into a life designed with intention, where money supports your purpose instead of overshadowing it. And that is where financial freedom truly begins. The difference between wanting money and wanting what money allows. Many people believe they want money, but in reality, they want something far more meaningful. What money represents. Money itself has no emotional weight, no inherent satisfaction, no ability to create joy on its own. It is neutral. What moves us, what motivates us, and what ignites our ambitions are the experiences, the freedoms, and the choices that money makes possible. Understanding this distinction is essential because it transforms your relationship with money from a vague desire into a clear purpose. To want money is abstract. It offers no direction, no anchor, and no strategy. It often leads to frustration because the goal is undefined. But when you dig deeper and identify what you truly want money for, everything becomes more precise. Some people want money because they long for stability, an escape from the fear of not having enough. Others want money because they desire comfort, a chance to rest, to breathe, to stop living in survival mode. Many want money because they yearn for freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of choice, freedom from dependence, or freedom from environments that limit their potential. And some want money because they dream of creating impact, supporting their family, building a legacy, or contributing to something greater than themselves. When your desire becomes specific, your actions become intentional. You no longer chase money for the sake of accumulation. You pursue it with clarity, focus, and emotional alignment. The motivation becomes deeply personal. It is no longer, I want more, but I want the ability to choose where my life is heading. This shift removes guilt, confusion, and conflict. It allows you to see money not as a symbol of ego or status, but as a pathway to the life you want to design. This distinction also brings peace. Wanting money can create tension, because the goal never feels complete. There is always a higher number to reach, a bigger milestone to hit, or a new comparison to make. But wanting what money allows grounds you in purpose. It helps you recognize when enough is enough. It shifts your focus from accumulation to alignment, from external pressure to internal meaning. It guides you toward choices that support your well-being, rather than choices that inflate your image. Another powerful insight emerges when you recognize this difference. You begin to understand what sacrifices are worth making and which ones are not. When people want money without a purpose, they often trade their peace, their health, or their relationships in the pursuit of it. But when you clearly identify what you want money to provide, you gain a natural sense of boundaries. You realize that it makes no sense to sacrifice the very things you hope money will one day protect. For example, if the true desire behind wanting money is more time with your family, then a career path that steals every hour of your day clearly works against that purpose. If what you truly want is freedom, then decisions that increase your dependence on debt pull you away from your goal, no matter how impressive they may look from the outside. Purpose becomes a compass. It prevents detours disguised as opportunities. It protects you from distractions that drain your energy, and it keeps your financial choices aligned with your deepest values. Understanding this difference also invites gratitude into your financial journey. When you recognize that money is simply a vehicle, you start celebrating the moments of freedom, peace, and growth that you already experience along the way. You notice that some of what you seek is already present, even if not in its fullest form, and that gratitude strengthens your emotional resilience, helping you make wiser and calmer decisions. Ultimately, wanting money is a desire rooted in scarcity, an endless reaching outward. Wanting what money allows is a desire rooted in purpose, an intentional reaching inward. One leaves you chasing, the other guides you toward building. One focuses on numbers, the other focuses on meaning. When you make this shift, when you stop pursuing money as the destination and start pursuing the life it can help you build, you step into a healthier, more liberating relationship with wealth. You no longer chase symbols, you build realities. You no longer measure your progress by what others have. You measure it by how aligned your life feels. Money is not the dream. Money is the bridge. The dream is the life waiting on the other side. Let that truth shape every decision you make from this moment forward. How purpose gives direction to saving and investing. Saving and investing often feel overwhelming when they exist without purpose. Numbers alone, percentages, charts, projections, rarely inspire long-term discipline. What truly sustains financial habits is meaning. Purpose turns abstract financial behaviors into intentional steps toward a future you can clearly envision. Without purpose, saving feels like sacrifice. With purpose, it feels like construction. When you know why you are saving, every decision transforms. It is no longer about restricting yourself, but about directing your energy. The clarity of purpose creates a bridge between your current self and the future you aspire to become. It brings emotional weight to the act of saving, turning it from an obligation into a commitment to your own evolution. Think of saving and investing as a compass. Without direction, you might still move, but you move in circles, always feeling behind, always wondering if you're doing enough. Purpose provides orientation. It tells you where to go, what matters, and what can be released from your life without regret. It gives shape to your financial decisions and reduces the noise of unnecessary temptations. A person who saves just because it's responsible will always struggle with consistency. But someone who saves because they want to break a family cycle of scarcity, retire early, build a business, protect their children, or reclaim their time, wakes up with a deeper level of commitment. Purpose adds emotion to logic, and in personal finance, emotion is the engine. Purpose also calms the mind during uncertainty. Investing especially brings moments of fear. Markets fluctuate, plans shift, unexpected events occur. When your investment strategy is connected to a meaningful outcome, you stay the course. You resist impulsive decisions because you understand what is at stake. Purpose helps you endure volatility with patience rather than anxiety. It reminds you that the value of your investments is not found in daily movements, but in the long-term direction they support. Furthermore, purpose creates discipline in a way that external pressure never can. It helps eliminate the internal contradictions that sabotage financial progress. When you know exactly what you want money to do for you, saying no to distractions becomes a form of self-respect. The short-term sacrifices feel lighter because the long-term rewards feel real. Purpose transforms discipline from a struggle into a natural expression of alignment. This clarity also reshapes your spending habits. You begin to differentiate between what brings momentary satisfaction and what contributes to your larger vision. The idea of wasting money becomes less about morality and more about misalignment. You start asking a powerful question before each financial decision. Does this bring me closer to the life I want to build? That question becomes a filter that simplifies choices, reduces stress, and strengthens your confidence. Purpose gives your investments a story. Instead of being just numbers on a screen, they become seeds planted in the soil of your future. Every contribution, no matter how small, feels meaningful because it is connected to a dream. That emotional connection fuels consistency, which ultimately fuels growth. Over time, this sense of direction creates a momentum that compounds just as powerfully as the interest on your investments. And there is another subtle but profound benefit. Purpose helps you feel satisfied along the journey, not just at the destination. You begin to appreciate each step because you know it is part of something larger. You avoid the trap of believing happiness only arrives once you have enough. Instead, you learn to celebrate progress, resilience, and intention. Purpose brings fulfillment to the process itself. Ultimately, saving and investing without purpose feel like limitations. Saving and investing with purpose feel like liberation. They become tools that honor your values, protect your future, and reflect the life you want to create. Purpose is the map. Saving is the path. Investing is the vehicle. And your life's vision is the destination these choices quietly lead you toward. When you align your financial actions with a clear purpose, every decision, big or small, moves you closer to the freedom that money was always meant to support. Inspiring stories. Purpose becomes most visible not in theory, but in the lives of people who choose to use their financial resources in ways that reflect who they truly are. Their stories reveal how money, when guided by intention, becomes a force for impact, connection, and meaning far beyond personal comfort. One example is the story of a woman named Elena. For years, she viewed money only through the lens of survival. She worked long hours, saved cautiously, and feared any risk. But when her father fell ill, she made a decision that changed her relationship with money entirely. Instead of seeing it as something to protect, she began to see it as something that could protect others. She used her savings to secure the treatment he needed, and although the expense was significant, it brought her a sense of peace she had never felt before. What mattered was not the money spent, but the purpose it served: love, care, and dignity. That moment redefined her financial mindset. She realized that money's deepest value comes from the lives it touches, not the accounts it fills. Another meaningful example comes from Daniel, a young engineer who always dreamed of starting a community robotics program for children who lacked access to education and technology. For years, he postponed the idea, believing he needed to wait until he had more. But as he learned to manage his finances with intention, he discovered that purpose does not wait for perfection. It starts with what you already have. Daniel created a small weekend workshop with inexpensive materials and volunteered his time. Over the years, he saved and reinvested carefully, and the program grew. What began with a handful of children eventually became a fully funded initiative supported by local sponsors. For Daniel, money transformed from a source of stress into a tool for enabling dreams, not only his own, but those of an entire community. There is also the story of an elderly couple, Martin and Anna, who spent decades living modestly. They were not wealthy in the traditional sense, yet what they built over time became far more valuable than material possessions. Every month, without fail, they set aside a portion of their income for a future opportunity fund. They didn't know exactly how they would use it, but they wanted to be prepared for something meaningful. Years later, when their granddaughter expressed an interest in attending a university abroad, they used that fund to support her education. It was not an extravagant act. It was a purposeful one. Their consistency, their quiet discipline, and their desire to create opportunity for the next generation became a powerful expression of legacy. Money allowed them to extend their values beyond their own lives, shaping the future of someone they loved. These stories, although different in circumstance, share a common theme. Purpose transforms financial actions into expressions of identity. Money becomes a language through which people communicate what they value most: family, community, opportunity, education, creativity, contribution, or compassion. It becomes a bridge between intention and impact. What makes these stories inspiring is not the amount of money involved, but the clarity behind its use. None of these individuals waited to become wealthy to act with purpose. They simply aligned their resources with their deepest motivations. In doing so, they discovered something often overlooked. Meaningful financial outcomes emerge not from abundance of money, but from abundance of intention. These examples remind us that purpose elevates even the smallest financial choices. It turns saving into preparation, investing into possibility, giving into connection, and spending into alignment. Purpose becomes the thread that weaves financial decisions into a coherent narrative, one that reflects not just what you earn, but who you are becoming. In the end, the most inspiring financial stories are not about accumulation, but about transformation. They show that money, when guided by purpose, becomes a quiet but powerful force that shapes futures, heals wounds, creates opportunity, and leaves traces of goodness long after the numbers themselves have been spent. Meaning is the real return on investment, one that compounds across generations. A poor mind seeks survival. A wealthy mind seeks to serve. There is a profound shift that occurs when you move from seeing money as something you must chase to seeing it as something you can direct. This shift marks the difference between a life centered on survival and a life guided by purpose. It is not a change measured by bank accounts, but by mindset. A transformation from fear to contribution, from scarcity to meaning. A poor mind seeks survival. A wealthy mind seeks to serve. This phrase captures one of the deepest truths about financial psychology. Your relationship with money evolves as your inner world evolves. When your only goal is to survive, every financial decision becomes urgent, reactive, and emotionally charged. You operate from fear, fear of not having enough, fear of losing what you have, fear of falling behind. In that state, money feels heavy, consuming, and unforgiving. But when your mindset expands, something remarkable happens. You begin to see money not as a barrier, but as a bridge. You recognize that the value of money is not in what it allows you to possess, but in what it empowers you to create. Wealth, in its truest form, becomes the ability to uplift others, support meaningful projects, share opportunities, and plant seeds that will grow long after you are gone. A wealthy mind is not defined by excess. It is defined by clarity. It asks different questions. How can I contribute? How can I build something that outlasts me? How can my resources support the people and causes I care about? When you reach this level of awareness, money stops being a source of stress and becomes a source of alignment. Your decisions are no longer driven by comparison or appearance, but by purpose. You spend with intention, invest with vision, and give with generosity. Financial choices become extensions of your values rather than reactions to your fears. This shift also reveals something essential. Service is not the final chapter of wealth. It is the beginning of true financial freedom. When your mind seeks to serve, you step into a state of abundance that does not depend on the market, circumstances, or external validation. You gain a sense of stability that cannot be shaken because it is rooted in meaning rather than accumulation. People who reach this stage often describe it as a sense of lightness. Money no longer feels like a burden to manage, but a tool to express who they are. It becomes a way to create possibility in their families, their communities, and themselves. This is the quiet power of purpose-driven wealth. It turns financial decisions into acts of contribution and transforms ordinary resources into extraordinary impact. In the end, the purpose of money is not to insulate you from life, but to enable you to participate in it more fully. It allows you to build, to support, to give, and to serve. And when service becomes the guiding principle, you discover a form of wealth that cannot be measured in numbers alone. A wealth made of influence, intention, and the legacy you leave behind. This chapter closes with a simple truth. Survival is the beginning of the financial journey, but service is its destination. And the moment your mind begins to seek service, you have already stepped into a higher form of wealth, one defined not by what you keep, but by what you create. If you believe this chapter could help someone, feel free to share it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And if you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe. Your support truly helps us keep creating more content like this.